Hello everyone, my name is Aubrey Rose and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about writing interconnected series. So this is going to be geared a little bit more towards YA contemporary romance because that is what I am currently writing. So here are 5 tips to help you write an interconnected series. My first tip is to know the gist of each story in your series. So this could be like the tropes, to write a little bit of a blurb about them, and ideally, well, for series you do kind of want to plot, so ideally you'll have a little bit of a plot for each story and also how they're interconnected. So my second tip is to make a list of all of your characters because most likely there are going to be quite a few, and even some of the side characters might play a little bit more of an important role later in the series. So you are going to want to keep track of them, make sure you know about their personalities, how they need to act, so that way they stay the same throughout the series, and yeah, just things like that. My third tip is to make a timeline. So for me, the timeline was pretty much just in the way that books were, the order in which I want the books to be published. So the order in which I would write them and the order they would come out. So this is mostly, I'm writing in a high school scenario. So this is just kind of like, okay, what part of school would they be in when this book is taking place, just something along those lines. And so that way I know when the first one is happening and kind of what I want the weather to be like, and also other school things that are going to be happening during this time. Like the end of the series, it takes place around prom. So yeah, I don't know, have a timeline so that you know which book goes where, and you can kind of keep it all straight in your head. Yeah, and you can also have like a timeline for the book itself, so when certain characters come into play in which books, something along those lines. Tip number 4 is to keep track of foreshadowing. So if you're going to foreshadow a character or just bring up a subject that you're going to be touching on later in the series, you kind of want to know when you're going to do that, how much you're going to foreshadow, what you actually need to be foreshadowing. So foreshadowing in a contemporary novel isn't going to be as like important as foreshadowing in a fantasy novel, because you're not like setting up weapons or places or people or something along those lines. For the most part, well, I guess you are kind of foreshadowing people. You're mostly just foreshadowing people and like, okay, who are we gonna see? Who's happily ever after are we gonna see later? And that would be setting up those people beforehand, something along those lines. And then tip number 5 is to write chronologically. And 5A, I guess, is to keep track of changes. So when you're writing chronologically, sometimes you'll come up with new characters or new somethings that'll happen, and so you want to keep track of that so that you know what to change in your idea, I guess, later in the book. So as I've been writing the first book in the series, I kind of came up with a new character, and this new character is going to come into play in the last book in the series. And I also introduced 3 characters that would come into play in the last book of the series that I was not planning on foreshadowing at all, but they it made sense to put them in this place, and then they're going to be like sort of friends but not really mentioned too much until we get to the last book. And so that's really exciting for me. I'm so excited to see all of this get put together, and yes, so those are my 5 tips for writing an interconnected series. I hope these were helpful for you. If you are writing fantasy, I do have some tips that I'm going to be sharing for that, not necessarily series-wise, but just kind of fantasy and plotting in general, because I have become a very hardcore plotter, outliner, and yes. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.